who out of this first round quarterback class will be the quarterback you're going to want in 3 years on your fantasy team?
Are we talking about Dynasty or are we talking about redraft?
You know what? Yeah, let's go with Dynasty here because I think that we don't get a chance to talk a lot of Dynasty on this show. So, yeah, I'm curious your thoughts there.
So Dynasty is pretty easy to pencil in Trevor Lawrence 1-1, right? But there is a discussion that needs to be had about Justin Fields being the 1-1 and Trey Lance as well. I think that Trey Lance has firmly put himself in as the number 2 quarterback behind whoever you want in number 1. Now the number 1 discussion gets very it's tough. It's not as easy as everybody makes it seem like. It's just straight up Trevor Lawrence, right? Now let's think about it. Trevor Lawrence is about to walk into a team that, let's just face it, right now doesn't have a lot of talent. Okay. Justin Fields, if he gets to throw to Allen Robinson, who is one of the most underappreciated wide receivers of this generation, and he gets paired up with a play caller who's pretty good in Matt Nagy, and he can do a lot of things down the field with the ball. So, for me, I think that I'm going to take the safe route and say that it's Trevor Lawrence, but there's a big discussion to be had whether Justin Fields is number 1. But that doesn't even make one of them number 2 because I still think it's Trey Lance. I think that if you talk to anybody about any of these quarterbacks, it's where would you want your quarterback to land? And I think no questions asked, everyone would want their quarterback to land with the San Francisco 49ers. It's the perfect situation when you put that rushing floor that Trey Lance is going to have on the table, right? That's for me what puts him at number 2, firmly in the number 2 discussion, because rushing floor gives you about 7-8 points off the bat. If he scores a touchdown, then you're set. And now you're talking about adding on passing. Yeah, it's too hard to ignore. I don't see the Bears using Justin Fields as a runner because you want to protect your guy. With Trey Lance, that's something that's part of his game. So you've got to use that for him. So Trey Lance is probably going to be my 1-2. But 1-1 is a good discussion. Whoever is not the 1-1, I think slips to 1-3 for me, if that makes any sense. I know that that doesn't really make sense because I'm talking about 2 guys being so close, and that means just one of them drops down. But I think that if you're taking Fields first, then I think I drop Lawrence to 3rd. And if it's Lawrence first, then I'm going to drop Fields to 3rd. So, I mean, it really just depends on what you're looking for. And it depends on your scoring format and stuff like that. If it's like super flex, obviously you got to go early with them. So, yeah, I mean, I would say Trevor Lawrence now, but I see a world where Justin Fields is the number 1 quarterback.
Yeah, it's fun to notice that variance on Trey Lance. For example, in redraft, I have him as actually the 5th at 5 out of 5 there, whereas I have him actually as 2 in my dynasty rankings because you're right. Trevor Lawrence, there can be an argument for 1v1. Why I think I'm so comfortable putting him in the spot is because I think aside from his upside, aside from his Peyton Manning level, Andrew Luck level upside, I think that his floor is going to be high enough to keep him above some of his other competitors, where I think that it's possible that Justin Fields could have more ups and downs. Like, let's say he loses Allen Robinson. Do the Bears necessarily have the ability to replenish the cupboard there at wide receiver? Matt Nagy, let's say they do have a down year. Do they move on from him and Pace, and suddenly there's a lot of misfunction going on there? Urban Meyer, maybe you could chalk him up for another 3 years. And then why I have actually Zach in Dynasty, I have Zach Wilson as my 5th ranked quarterback there. And the reason I do, even below McCorkle Jones, is because as much as I love Robert Saleh, obviously we're both Niners fans. We love Robert Saleh. Let's say Matt LaFleur's brother, Mike LaFleur, has a really great season. Like Zach Wilson looks amazing as a rookie. Then he's going to be the hot commodity on the head coach search. And then that means Zach Wilson suddenly has this equation where he's 2 coordinators in 2 years. And then let's say his next coordinator either doesn't live up to expectations or does have another good year. Then he's gone. Now we're up to 3 coordinators in 3 years. All while, Robert Saleh, as much as I love his energy and enthusiasm from the defensive side, I don't think that he's necessarily built to coach up a quarterback. And that's my concern as far as him long-term.
That's a valid concern, honestly, and that's the thing. Here's the other thing too, is not just the offensive coordinator leading, like, as you can tell, when one person leaves, they take a bunch of people with them. Like, that's the MO, right? So there could be, and everybody wants a piece of the Shanahan tree, right? They always want to get somebody like that. So that's a very valid concern. Let's say that LaFleur does take off this year, and next year people want to either hire him as a head coach or their OC somewhere else. The only thing that I would say, like, just in, to retort to that, is I think that Saleh would get somebody who's still in that same I guess the same Shanahan mold. Like they have they're all friends. So like when one of them goes, they take a bunch of them, but they can always pull from other places as well too. So I mean, that's a really interesting point. Like nobody ever really brought that up to me, and that's something that I think is a very valid concern about, another coordinator, another time, and everything as well. They've got weapons around him now. Finally, Mims and Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, and I love Michael Carter.
No running game though. That's my
concern.
Michael
Carter is gonna take that backfield over pretty quickly. It's Michael Carter, LaMichael Pirine, and Tevin Coleman, who we both know. That's it though. That's it. So I expect Michael Carter to get the lion's share of things and actually do more in the passing game than either of those two. Tevin Coleman is gonna see the field because he's good in pass pro and he's familiar with the scheme. LaMichael Pirine, we really don't know what he is yet. Michael Carter was somebody who, when we were in Mobile, he was just, oh my goodness, he's a draft crush of mine. I was so happy to see him get there because now while I'm here in Jersey, I get to watch him a lot more now and keep tabs on him and Salah. So, but that's a really good point, honestly, about the coordinators thing. I never really thought of that.
Yeah, and then the last quarterback that we didn't really even touch on, like Mac Jones, the reason I think I'm not going to put him dead last is I do think that he ended up in the right system. At the end of the day, I think he ended up with his skill set, perfect system for his talents, that even if he's not, he's going to be kind of like that Andy Dalton of fantasy, where it's like reliable fantasy points, just kind of like those little check downs, dunk offs. I don't think I know people have equated him to Tom Brady. Obviously, that's unfair. And that's just not realistic as well, in my mind. Could prove me wrong, but this is not a thick boy fall coming up for Mac Jones.
And it's funny. I just got my first share of him in a 14-team Dynasty league, and I think I was picking 5th, and it was super flex, so I had to at that point. I feel good about it, honestly, because like you said, I think the misconception when it came to us not wanting Mac at 3 was that we think that he's a terrible quarterback, and that's not the case at all. It's just, again, what you spent to move up to 3 to get him is the part that I think a lot of people had problems with. But I think he's going to be a fine quarterback, especially for fantasy football. And when you think about what they're going to do with him, they're going to run the ball, but he, is going to be a guy who's going to command the offense. He's going to get the ball to, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. Those are 2 tight ends right there that are top of the league. And, Kendrick Bourne, we all love. Nelson Aguilar, they've got some people over there, and never underestimate what McDaniels can do with him. So, I think it was the perfect situation for him and for fantasy, honestly, for him. You don't want him to be the guy that has to lead the offense, or uplift the offense. But I don't feel like he's going to need to with the Patriots just because he's going to be around a good team and great coaching. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, honestly. I think that Mac Jones does have a higher floor than Zach Wilson, even if Zach Wilson's ceiling is out of this world because of some of the throws he can make.